There's going to be a huge announcement today. Trump has promised so much, and we're going to see what he has to say. Now, I understand if you're a little skeptical, and that's understandable to be skeptical given what has happened in the past. But I think I'm seeing all the pieces line up on the chessboard now. Here's what I mean. Yesterday, according to Lindsey Graham, a huge weapons sales package to Ukraine will be announced tomorrow by Trump. That's yesterday to today. We're also seeing President Trump to announce a new weapons package for Ukraine that could include long-range missiles capable of reaching Moscow, marking an escalation after Vladimir Putin told Trump that he planned a 60-day offensive to capture more Ukrainian territory. Okay. I think that's what you're going to see. That's what I've been hinting at. That's what I have been understanding is in the works. Now, it could be something else. He could surprise us. And again, if you want to wait until after it's done, perfectly fine. I mean, that's no problem. Trust but verify, or in fact, just verify. That's okay. Trump confirms U.S. will send Patriot systems to Ukraine. Axios adds that Trump is furious with Putin and will announce a new weapons plan today, including offensive arms and long-range missiles. Putin told Trump on July 3rd, again, that he plans to capture four Ukrainian regions within 60 days. Good luck with that. Okay, Putin's really surprised a lot of people, says Trump. He talks nice and then he bombs everybody in the evening. That was my headline when I was showing this was breaking yesterday. But I want you to listen to what Trump has to say. Because before the election, I was saying, even if Trump wins, and Harris's rhetoric was far better about Ukraine, she probably would have continued a Biden-like kind of policy, and Biden was slow walking. Trump has been far worse so far. But I said, I can't see that Trump wouldn't want to sell this to the Europeans and then run a victory lap because he didn't really do a lot except for sell the stuff. And right, you can go back into my past videos and see that. Listen to what he had to say this morning.
We're going to have a meeting with the Secretary General who's coming in tomorrow.
But he said this last night.
We basically are going to send them various pieces of very sophisticated military, and they're going to pay us 100% for them. And that's the way we want it. And we've been trying to get that again. I don't think Biden ever asked for it. We're in for about $350 billion.
The numbers aren't quite right, but just hear what he has to say.
Is in for $100 billion. That's a lot of money, 100, but they should be in actually for more than us. So as we send equipment, they're going to reimburse us for that equipment. Doesn't that sound good? That's the way it should have been a long time ago.
Yeah, that is the way it should have been a long time ago, where you were doing this a long time ago. But okay, so it's not the preferable method, but it's a method that's helping Ukraine get what they need, and it's going to work because the Europeans don't have the military equipment, but they do have money to be able to help Ukraine with. The Americans have the equipment, and even if they're unwilling to just continue to give, they can still work it out where they can get the equipment to Ukraine. So I think this is going to be a win-win. Okay, Germany has confirmed talks are underway to provide Ukraine with more than 3 Patriot systems. Germany and Norway are expected to cover at least 3 of these. We don't know how many are coming out, but that's probably the minimum. That's probably the floor. Okay. Kyiv, the city of courage, posted this. Mr. President, President of the United States, today's decision will echo far beyond Ukraine. It's a moment to to prove that this aggression can be stopped. That's right. This aggression can be stopped. Where there's a will, there's a way. Okay, not with words, signals, and meetings, but with action. A nation standing on the front line of war for freedom is not left alone. Air defense protects families. Long-range systems to drive the invader back. Timely support can end this war and prevent others planned. That's right. Good thinking. Okay, now again, the chessboard's being set. I see the table being set here. NATO chief is heading to Washington ahead of Trump's major announcement. His visit comes amid expectations of renewed Ukraine aid. And it's not just there either. Here we see Keith Kellogg. He's in Kyiv right now. He just got off the train. Hopefully his presence means that we can all get some sleep. Isn't that a heartbreaking line? Hopefully his presence means we can get some sleep. Okay, I'm glad he's there. Now, he's there for a week, so it looks like there's some kind of extended thinking to, like, working out the details here. Moscow is already preparing for Trump's pivot, according to Michael McFaul. Steve Rosenberg was showing today's papers in Russia. Russia and America are moving towards a new round of confrontation. Donald Trump has delusions of grandeur and a very big mouth. Washington's actions have become extremely chaotic, according to these papers. Let's just listen to a little bit of it.
Some articles today predict something rather unpleasant is heading Moscow's way from Washington. Others brush it all off. Moskovsky Komsomolets. To put it simply, Trump couldn't care less about Ukraine and what happens to it. What he does care about are his own interests, his own image, his role in world history, his chances of winning the Nobel Peace Prize.
And if those things line up, Ukraine's interest and Trump's care about himself looking awesome, fine. Let him care about himself and look awesome and get stuff to Ukraine as a consequence. I don't care if he does it for the wrong reasons. I just want Ukraine to have what it needs to fight off the aggression.
In the battle for all these core values, the US president is ready to go for anyone's jugular, or at least impose tough sanctions on anyone. This explains why that anyone could be Russia. Russia and America are moving towards a new round of confrontation over Ukraine, and the Monday surprise, which Trump promised Moscow, will not be a pleasant one for our country. But let's not underestimate the level of creativity of the leaders of the world's two main nuclear powers. Let's wait for Monday.
Yeah, it's not going to be pleasant for Moscow. Even the Russian papers are saying that. Okay. Ben Hodges was reacting to this comment here about the math of the air war in Ukraine is simple. Yes, air defenses are needed, but there will never be enough air defense, expensive Patriots, etc. The only way to stop Putin from bombarding Ukrainian cities is by helping Ukraine strike deep into Russia. So we're hoping that we're going to see not just Patriots that can defend, but we're also hoping to see some kind of larger long-range missiles that can go and attack the supply chain. Ben Hodges replied, help Ukraine kill the Archer. That's right. That's what they have to go after. Okay, it's been clear since day one of the so-called negotiations that Russia's only goal was to persuade the current U.S. administration to halt support for Ukraine in exchange for a facade of goodwill diplomacy. And that's what it's been, a facade aimed at a truce. One it never intended to follow through on, or would drag its feet as long as possible and come up with objection after objection. Okay. Even Jay in Kyiv, who's no fan of Trump, was saying, let's hope Trump's about to rip Putin a new one. Well, we're all on that same page. We hope that that's the case. And even if you don't like Trump, you can like what he's doing here. If that's, if you're on the left and you just don't like Trump, okay, I get it. But we all want him to be doing this particular action. Okay, Trump gave Putin all kinds of concessions. Putin kept asking for more, and now Putin has overreached in his relationship with Trump. Overreach is a common Putin flaw, says Michael McFaul, former ambassador to Russia. Okay, so here's Kirill Dmitriev. And the Noel Reports posted, Russia appears rattled by Trump's new rhetoric. Putin's representative, Kirill Dmitriev, is now calling for constructive dialogue between Moscow and Washington. He wrote that talks would be more useful than pressure rhetoric, even decorating his message with peace-themed emojis down here. Constructive dialogue between Russia and the U.S. will always achieve more than the tired, destructive language of pressure, says Kirill Dmitriev. Only cooperation brings real peace, stability, and global security. Biden's mistakes and deception will be corrected. The world deserves better. Well, the world deserves better. That's a true statement, but better than what Russia is doing to Ukraine. Okay. And all that news has crowded out what's gone on overnight with, 140 missiles and rockets and whatever last night. Russia launched 136 Shaheds. That's actually a good number because that means that they're not saving up like they were just a couple days ago. So they already saved up half a day's worth or so. We'll see what happens today and tomorrow, the next day. Along with 4 S-300, S-400 missiles, Ukrainian air defenses shot down 61 Shaheds, 47 decoys. At least 28 drones hit targets in 10 locations. On the battlefield, 1,130 Russians. That's a little bit higher. It's not quite as high as it was the other day. 3 tanks, 4 armored fighting vehicles, 51 artillery systems, 102 vehicles and fuel tanks. And if we look at Andrew Perpetua's list for the 13th, we see that, the Russian losses are about not quite half of what the Ukrainian losses were. That's a bad day for Ukraine. And it happens. And we got to be honest about it and show it. Andrew Perpetua also said, I can't fit all the losses from yesterday into one image because there's so many. I'm sorry. Like there was a lot. Okay, in the cross direction, Ukrainian defenders repelled all 68 assaults. 68 is high for cross given the number of casualties. So high assaults and not as high casualties. So with 68 assaults, I would have expected like 1,300 casualties or something along those lines. Just using it as a very rough cut between what's going on in Pokrovsk and what's going on with total casualties, which would indicate that maybe there's more assaults and fewer people involved in it, or fewer. It's not as quite a strong assault attempt. I don't know. Russian forces recently advanced near Pokrovsk and Novopolivka. And then I saw this and I thought, well, that's interesting. Bomb usage has started to climb back to the 150 per day mark. The increase may be temporary, but rather not. Will suggest possible change in the production cycle. So at a certain point, it hit a low and then it hit a very high and then it came down again. And now it's back to 150 or so. Airstrikes on the position of Russian drone operators. You can see what's going on here. This is an example of a cage that fully covers a Ukrainian M109 howitzer. Of course, both sides have to do exactly the same thing with these cages covering the armored vehicles. It's so weird that armor isn't armor. It's such a strange thing that a cage is actually more effective to protect armor than, like, it almost hurts your head, except, yeah. Okay, couple last things. 3 months ago today, we killed 34 civilians attending Easter church service in Sumy because we defend Christian values. You have imposed no meaningful consequences upon us. This means you permitted it. That's why we keep doing it. And then he goes on with a reply to that. Our faux outrage would be convincing if my other trolls didn't express delight at the crime. But this whole idea that you've imposed no meaningful consequences, so they keep doing it. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly the problem. And that's hopefully what we'll see at least partially remedied today with Trump's big announcement. All right, my friends, I am also, if you're not aware, I'm also now on Apple Podcasts. So if you are a friend of podcasts, just go to Apple Podcasts and type in Professor Gerdes Explains, and you can listen there. I'm trying to extend the reach of who can be informed with this, but I was on Spotify and I'm actually changing the Spotify link. So I haven't put something out there because I'm changing everything so that if you look up Professor Gerdes Explains, you can find it on Apple and Spotify and a whole range of iHeartRadio and what was I talking about yesterday? Audible podcasts. So you can find the same audio there. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.